It was a rainy afternoon when a familiar heaviness settled in my chest. I stood by the window of our small apartment, tracing shaky patterns in the glass while the world outside blurred beneath the steady downpour. In the kitchen, Emily hummed softly as she poured tea, the comforting steam curling around her. She seemed so serene, completely unaware of the storm brewing inside me. The thought crept up gently at first, a whisper of doubt, but now it screamed. I didn't love her anymore. Only a year had passed since we moved into this place together. Back then, bright laughter and grand dreams filled every room. We were inseparable, partners in life and love. Watching Emily tie her chestnut hair into a bun and smile up at me that morning as I left for work, I couldn't imagine a single day without her. In those moments, my heart swelled with warmth, and I felt like the luckiest man alive. For weeks, I had brushed off that strange feeling, telling myself I was just tired. But tonight, even as the storm outside began to fade, I could no longer pretend everything was fine. For the first time, that warmth felt fragile. The threads of our perfect tapestry seemed to be loosening. I could almost feel them slipping through my fingers. Now, I realized something had changed. I waited in silence for Emily to return, my throat tight with guilt and uncertainty. When she walked through the door, her eyes searched mine, but I had no words. I knew I would never feel the same way about her again. That evening, after Emily left for a friend's gathering, I sat alone on the couch. Rain tapped softly on the windows as old photographs whispered from the shelf. Each frame held a piece of our shared history, sealed in a flash of light and laughter. There we were on a sunny beach, laughing as a wind tangled our hair and sand clung to our toes. I could still taste the salt on my lips just thinking about it. A moment of pure joy, completely unaware of what tomorrow would bring. In another, we stood wrapped in each other's arms under twinkling city lights on the night we got engaged. Every smile, every gentle gesture in those pictures reminded me of the love story I once believed in. I realized each captured moment held more meaning than I had allowed myself to admit. As I sat in the quiet living room, cradling those memories, a single thought emerged. I remembered how we first met. It was a crowded bookstore in autumn. I was reaching for a worn-out novel when Emily's hand brushed mine. She laughed and said, "Great minds think alike, huh?" In that moment, my heart felt lighter than it had in months. I remember her dark curls bouncing as she grinned shyly. We ended up talking on the bookstore bench for hours, sharing stories and dreams in the gentle, golden light that filtered through the front window. Over time, our lives wove together, her gentle kindness balancing my restless energy. She taught me patience, and I encouraged her adventurous streak. We built our partnership on mutual respect, soft afternoon coffees on the balcony, and promises whispered in the dusk. Each memory should have brought me joy. And at first, it did. But now, as I stared at our smiles, frozen in time, I felt hollow. It was as though the very meaning behind those moments had evaporated. The colors in these old photographs seemed to have faded, leaving only empty shadows where love used to be. Sitting there among these photographs, I couldn't fathom how it had all slipped away so quietly. In the months since our engagement, subtle changes had started chipping away at our happiness. It wasn't one big argument or betrayal. It was a series of small things, accumulating like pebbles in my shoe. A quiet tension lingered whenever we passed each other in the morning without a smile. For a while, I convinced myself it was just a phase, that we would soon laugh about this. Once, when Emily suggested we finally take that weekend trip to the mountains we'd been planning, I found myself fixated on work emails instead. I forced a smile and muttered, "Maybe next weekend, hun." And she nodded, disappointment flickering in her eyes. At dinner one evening, she reached across the table and gently asked, "I missed you today. What's on your mind?" I shrugged and said it was just stress. Each of those little unspoken moments built another wall between us, and I found myself hiding in work more and more, avoiding the guilt of truth. That night, Emily washed dishes quietly, her gaze following my movements. Finally, she said softly, "James, it feels like I'm losing you. Have I done something wrong?" Her voice was small, hopeful for an answer. It struck me like a slap. How could I explain that the emptiness had nothing to do with her? Instead, I offered a gentle smile and said it was just stress. She nodded slowly, forcing her trust, but the silence that followed was heavy. In the dark reflection on the window, I saw a stranger with tired eyes, me. My subconscious couldn't stay silent forever. One night, I dreamt we were dancing on a rooftop under stars that blinked like secrets in a velvet sky. City lights sparkled below, and her laughter wove into the music of the night. But when I reached to hold her, she vanished from my arms as if melted by the moonlight, leaving only the echo of her soft laugh behind. I woke in a cold sweat, heart pounding with panic. The line between dream and reality blurred as the truth inched closer. Something fundamental between us had changed. In the quiet of that night, I realized just how lonely I had become, even when we were together. As November rolled in, the city grew cold, and so did my thoughts. One gray morning, I returned from work to find Emily on the bedroom floor, surrounded by open suitcases. The scent of fresh linen and her favorite lavender soap hung in the air, but her eyes were red and puffy, as though she had been crying. My heart twisted. "What's going on?" I asked quietly, kneeling beside her, dread pooling in my stomach. Emily looked up and forced a tired smile. In her hands was a faded letter with our names written on it. "I found this," she said gently, voice trembling. I couldn't ignore it. It was the old love letter I had written her a year ago, back when love still felt new. I remembered writing about seeing a lifetime in her eyes, but as Emily began to recite it softly, one part froze me in place, an apology I didn't even recall writing. My stomach dropped. Somehow that discarded draft had survived in a corner and now lay between us. My heart seized. The stolen glances at my phone, the absent mornings, the fragile half-smiles. I realized they had all been part of that hidden doubt I had buried inside me. I swallowed hard and whispered, "I didn't mean to keep this from you." My voice broke before I could continue. Emily held the letter with shaken hands. "You never gave this to me," she said quietly. "Why did you write it?" I didn't want her to see the pain in my eyes. Outside, the rain on the rooftop pounded like judgment. "I wrote it. I was afraid," I admitted finally. I told myself I needed time. Time to know if I could be the man I promised to be. I guess I fell out of that love somewhere along the way. She deserved the truth, even if it hurt both of us deeply. Silence hung in the air. Emily's face crumpled in grief. "You've known for a while, haven't you?" she said softly. "I've seen it." Tears filled my eyes, and I nodded, unable to speak. I wanted to figure it out before I hurt you, I murmured. The days that followed were heavy with unspoken emotion. Emily and I spent long, quiet afternoons on our balcony, trying to bridge the gap between who we once were and who we had become. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows on the city below as I finally took her hand and said, "I'm sorry I hurt you. I wish I could turn back time and find the me who was sure of us, but I can't." Her hand squeezed mine gently. "What will you do?" she asked quietly, tears glistening in her eyes. The question hung between us like a word we already knew the answer to. "I'm leaving tonight," I said, each word heavy in the still air. She nodded. No anger left her, only a sad acceptance. That night, I packed my few belongings in silence. Emily sat on the bed, tears falling quietly as she watched me zip my suitcase. At the door, she pulled me into a final embrace. I felt her heart beating softly against mine as she whispered, "Will you be okay?" Outside, the rain had finally stopped. The only sound was the faint rustle of my coat. I hesitated, then held her tighter and whispered back, "I will be," and stayed that way as long as she needed. When I finally pulled away, the moon had risen, a faint orange glow amid thinning clouds. Walking away from the apartment, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The ache in my chest was still there, but it was honest now. We had both been honest in the end. I didn't love her the way I used to, but I cared for her deeply. Perhaps that was different but real in its own way. I didn't look back at the apartment as I walked away, but I knew I would carry those memories with me. As the early dawn painted the sky with gentle pink and gold, I realized sometimes love changes shape. Maybe one day both of us would find happiness on paths we never expected. For now, I stepped into the quiet morning with fragile hope, thankful for what we had, and ready to rediscover who I truly was. For the first time in years, I felt ready to be honest with myself again. Then I walked toward a city where silence filled the streets, and even the lights carried a sense of sorrow. Loneliness seeped into my very being, until I reached a place where it felt as if I had never loved at all. The truth is, I was completely broken inside.